Red Bull has just made a mistake that could cost them Max Verstappen forever. And no, I'm not exaggerating. What happened in Hungary and what's emerging in the last few hours about the new contract proposed to the four-time world champion is something that completely changes the scenario for Formula One in 2027. Because Red Bull has removed from the contract exactly the clause that gave Verstappen total control over his future. And now, Max has to decide whether to trust a team that can't even give him a drivable car. Let's start with the facts from the Hungarian Grand Prix, because that's where everything exploded. Verstappen finished second, a result that on paper looks excellent. But the reality behind that podium is devastating. After the race, Verstappen appeared in front of journalists and said a phrase that froze everyone. "How the hell did I end up here?" I was shocked, and I still am. This is not a driver celebrating. This is a driver who knows he got a result he didn't deserve with that car underneath him. And the most serious thing is that his own team principal confirmed it publicly just a few hours later. Before moving on with this incredible story, if this Formula One content interests you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with your opinion on this situation. Now let's get back to the bombshell, because what comes next is even heavier. Laurent Mekies has publicly admitted that Red Bull failed to give Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar a car they could truly compete with at the Hungaroring. He said that in Austria and Spa, the drivers had given positive feedback, saying the car was practically perfect in terms of balance and on-track behavior. But in Hungary, this never happened. Not on Friday during free practice, not on Saturday in qualifying, not on Sunday in the race. Think about what that means. Red Bull's team principal openly saying his drivers didn't have the tools to fight for an entire race weekend. And throughout the race, Verstappen complained over the radio about terrible oversteer that made the RB22 nearly impossible to control in medium and high-speed corners. But the detail nobody has told properly is the one about the mysterious damage. Verstappen revealed after the race that he had noticed damage on his car when he got out of it. He didn't want to specify what was damaged. He didn't give technical details, but he said clearly that it wasn't the first time this had happened during the season. Damage that appears during the race with no obvious cause, with no contact with other drivers. This is a serious problem that Red Bull isn't communicating openly, and it could be linked to the structural fragility of some components of the RB22, a car born with weight problems from day one of testing. And here we arrive at the point that's making the paddock tremble. The famous Macarena rear wing. Ted Kravitz of Sky Sports has revealed that Pierre Wache, Red Bull's technical director, is currently under very strong internal pressure from management. The problem is that the aerodynamic upgrade introduced a few races ago in Austria continues to create instability and hasn't been resolved yet. Verstappen described the car as completely broken aerodynamically, not partially problematic, not slightly unstable, completely broken. And both he and teammate Hadjar used the exact same word to describe the RB22 in Hungary: undrivable. When two different drivers with different driving styles say the same thing, the problem isn't the driver. The problem is the car. The dilemma now is both technical and strategic at the same time. Red Bull must decide whether to go back to the old Spa rear wing, which is slower but at least predictable in behavior, or continue developing the new version, which offers more performance on paper, but generates chronic instability on track. It's a choice that reveals how deep the team's technical crisis is. When a Formula One team seriously considers reversing its development, it means something has gone very wrong in the design process. And Kravitz landed a harsh jab, saying this situation is certainly not the best aerodynamic advertisement to convince Verstappen to stay with the team. Like this video if you want me to keep bringing you these in-depth Formula One analyses, and share it with a friend who loves motorsport. Now let's move into the contractual chapter, which is even more explosive than the technical one. Red Bull has proposed a new deal to Verstappen. On paper, it looks generous and ambitious. An extension through 2029, 1 year more than the current 2028 expiration, and an increase to a base salary already around 65 million euros per season. But here's the plot twist that's driven the paddock crazy. Completely eliminated from the new contract is the exit clause. That clause, which currently allows Verstappen to leave the team if he's not among the top two in the Drivers' Championship at the summer break. And guess what? Verstappen is currently fourth in the championship. The clause is already active as of this moment. He has until October to exercise it and free himself. Red Bull is trying to lock down its driver by taking away exactly the freedom that makes him strong in the negotiation. It's a risky, almost desperate move. The German newspaper Bild has denied rumors that Red Bull tried to buy out the clause with a 7- or 8-figure payment. The strategy instead is different and more underhanded. They want Verstappen to voluntarily give up the clause in exchange for more money. But Verstappen has never been a driver who moves only for money. Mark Mateschitz, Red Bull's co-owner, is reportedly losing patience with this endless negotiation. Talks have been dragging on for weeks without a conclusion, and Oliver Mintzlaff, the group's sporting director, is pushing to close the matter quickly before the situation spirals out of control. Let's look at the bigger picture because this is where things get really interesting for the whole Formula One circus. Mercedes has already confirmed Russell and Antonelli as their driver pairing for 2027. Toto Wolff said so clearly this weekend, that door is definitively closed. The only realistic alternative for Verstappen would be McLaren. And McLaren isn't just a theoretical possibility. In Hungary, Lando Norris was clearly the fastest driver on the entire grid. Mekies himself admitted it without hesitation. He said that only Norris was clearly faster than Max and that everyone else could be beaten. McLaren brought an upgrade package to Budapest that gave the car a huge leap forward, and that impressed Mekies himself. So let's sum up the position Verstappen finds himself in right now. He has a car that he himself calls undrivable. He has a team that publicly admits it can't find the right operating window race after race. He has a technical director under pressure who isn't solving the chronic rear wing problem. He has a contract the team wants to renew by eliminating his only way out. And on the other side, he has a McLaren that's flying, that has the fastest car right now and that openly admires him as a driver. Red Bull enters the summer break as the fourth force in the Constructors' Championship, more than 200 points behind Mercedes in the lead. The gap to third-placed McLaren is 43 points, but the trend is crystal clear. McLaren is climbing with impressive upgrades. Red Bull is trying not to sink with a wing that doesn't work. And the problem isn't just pure performance, it's structural and design-related. The RB22 was born overweight and with too narrow an operating window. On some tracks, it works decently. On others, it's a total disaster. There's no consistency, and without consistency, you can't win a Formula One championship. Verstappen knows this perfectly well, and that's why he hasn't signed anything yet. Every difficult weekend like Budapest becomes one more argument in the negotiations. And Red Bull is terrified at the idea that its best driver might look elsewhere before October. Because without Verstappen, Red Bull isn't a championship-caliber team. With him, even with a problematic, flaw-ridden car, he still manages to reach the podium and bring in heavy points. It's the difference between a normal driver and an absolute superstar who drags the team beyond its technical limits. The question everyone in the paddock is asking is simple. Will Verstappen stay at Red Bull, or will we see the most sensational transfer of the last 20 years of Formula One? The answer will come by October. But every race like Budapest, every wing that doesn't work, every public admission from Mekies brings Verstappen closer to the exit door, and Red Bull knows it very well. That's why they're trying to close that door with an airtight contract with no clauses. But Max Verstappen has never been a driver who lets himself be caged by anyone. If you want to find out how this incredible situation develops, stay on this channel because in the coming days, news will arrive that will change everything.